Hello everyone, this is Adhish. I'm a grade 10 student from Mumbai. So today's problem is the one with Russ, which is season 2, episode 10 of Friends. And this is the second problem in this contest. And that's why it is a very simple cakewalk problem. And you only need to know loops and basic implementation, along with how do we take in arrays and input output. So in this problem, we are basically given n integers in an array A and in an array B. And this basically represents the n characteristics for Ross and for us. And Rachel basically decides that Ross looks exactly like Russ if the number of characteristics where the absolute difference between the scores of the characteristics is k. So if the absolute difference is less than or equal to k and the number of such scores is at least x, then they look exactly identical, otherwise they don't. So for example, let's say we have n is 4. So in each test case, we are given n, x, and k, which represents the number of characteristics in total. The minimum number of characteristics which have to have a absolute difference within k. So k is the maximum possible score difference. X is the number of characteristics where like the score difference should be less than or equal to k. And n is the total number of characteristics. So this is what we are given for each test case. For example, let's say n is 4, x is 2, and k is 2. And let's see that these are the characteristics. So for the first one is for Ross and the second one is for us. So we realize that 1 and 1 have a difference of 0. So 0 is less than or equal to the k value, which is 2. So 0 is less than or equal to 2. So we have 1 over here. Then 7 minus 8 is 1. Like the absolute value is 1. That's less than or equal to 2. So we have a second one at index 1. So index 0 and index 1 work. Those two characteristics are there. And the remaining two indices don't work. So in total, there are two characteristics which match, and hence they are alike. And even in the fourth example, when we have basically the difference should be 0, and it should hold for all three characteristics. So basically, these two arrays should be exactly the same because for all of the three characteristics, the difference should be 0, and that works, that holds true. And in the second example, let's copy this example and let's work it out. So let's say we have n is 5. So we know that in this example n is 5, x is 1, and k is 3. So this means that we need to ensure that the difference is within 3 for at least one of the characteristics. So does this hold true? Let's check it out. So we know that for the first person, which is Ross, I think. So this is for Ross and this is for us. So at position 0, so let's number the indices in the array from 0 to 4. So at position 0, the condition is not true because the difference, so let's keep the differences in this array. So the difference is 4, the absolute difference is 4, which is not less than 3, less than or equal to 3. Then the next difference is 4, the next difference is 6, the next difference is 6, and the next difference is 4. This is the absolute value of the difference between two elements. So that's what I've just written in this new array. And we need to find the number of elements in this new array which are less than or equal to 3. And the number of such elements is 0. So that's why 0 is not greater than or equal to 1. So it's not greater than or equal to 1, and that's why we'll print no. So that's basically the reason why behind we print no in this example. And in general, so let's try to generalize the algorithm. We basically first take in the array A from the input, and we take in the array B. So let's say that array A represents Ross's array or Russ's array and whoever the person is. And let's say B represents Ross's array because even in the input we are given the array A and the array B. So Let's find the number of indices. So let's go for all I. For all I going from 0 to I is n minus 1, because the indices in the array is from 0 to n minus 1. We'll basically, if the absolute value of ai minus bi is less than or equal to k, so if this essential condition is met, we'll increase the count by 1 and initially count is 0. So initially count is 0 and we'll increase count by 1. And in the end, we know that if this condition is met for at least x characteristics, then they are alike. So if count is greater than or equal to x, then we print yes with the like in quotes because it's a string. So we print yes, and we can print yes in either uppercase or lowercase, so that doesn't matter. Otherwise, we'll print no. And this is basically the essential logic which we'll do for each test case. So we'll repeat this whole process for each test case because that's exactly what we want. We need to find the number of indices such that the absolute value of the two elements is less than or equal to k. So that's what count stores. Count stores the number of such indices. And if the number of such indices is greater than or equal to x, we'll print yes, otherwise we'll print no. So now I'll just show you the code implementing the same idea. So in the code, I taken the value of t, and while t is greater than 0, I taken the value of n, x, and k. Then I taken the array A and the array B. And for each I in range 0 to n, which basically goes from 0 to n minus 1, if the absolute value is less than or equal to k of the difference, we'll increase count by 1. If count is greater than or equal to x, we'll print yes, otherwise we'll print no. And the C++ code for this will do the exact same thing, except it will use vectors to store array A and array B, and it will check the exact same condition and print yes if the count is greater than or equal to x and no otherwise. And you can verify that this code gets accepted. So I hope you like this problem and my solution. If you had any doubts, do leave them in the comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up.